Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Think Realty webinar. Today we have a special guest, special treat with Turnkey Property Pro. Oliver Somoza and Phil Alexander is going to be speaking here shortly. Just wanted to, a couple of housekeeping things. Wanted to remind everybody that if you have any questions, there's a questions bar on the right side. Just click on that and go ahead and put your questions in throughout the presentation. And then there'll be a question and answer session at the end where he'll answer as many questions as he can get to before our time is up. Also wanted to let you know that there'll be a link to the video sent out to everybody. Once it is completed, we'll post that up in YouTube and then send over a link for you. So you can actually go back and re-listen to that and get more information out of it as well. So with that, we'll just turn it over to Oliver and let him go.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this webinar. We are super excited to talk to you a little bit about our investment properties and more specifically about Berkey's and the BRRRR strategy. So very excited to have everybody with us, and also we're going to introduce Phil, who is our Director of Client Engagement. Phil, you there?
Oliver, I am, and thanks very much. If I may, I'll jump in right here and bring you back in, Oliver, when we can get to a point and where we can jump on your expertise, if that works for you.
That sounds great.
Excellent. Hello, everyone. Thanks for taking time out this afternoon to join us. We're thrilled to have you here and thrilled to be able to share a little bit of what we're doing in Baltimore primarily with you. A lot of people are excited about the turnkey rental real estate these days, especially with what we see happening in the stock market. That's crashing, and yet, frankly, smart money is going into real estate investment, and we'll talk about reasons for that. But essentially, the BRRRR strategy is kind of the I guess hot new thing. It's something that everybody seems very, very intrigued by because it allows you to recycle your investment capital and accelerate your wealth building and portfolios because of the nature of the strategy. We've married that BRRRR strategy to the offering something that we kind of call the Berkey. And it is, as I said, probably the best known strategy out there right now to achieve that wealth building velocity. We offer investors an excellent opportunity to build their portfolios, and we work with you because we take a very proprietary approach and treat every property as if it was our own, working hard every day to make sure that you, the client, are satisfied, because happy people stay in the game and buy more property. So really, what is a Berkey? As I started to say, the BRRRR portion, buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and repeat, is a financial strategy. It's not an alternative to turnkey. It's a financial strategy, and it's predicated upon essentially buying for all cash a property that's going to be either gut renovated or near gut renovated, and then have a tenant put into place, so your cash flow, a 6-month seasoning period. You then do, or the idea is to do a cash out refinance, which allows, by the Fannie Freddie rules, you to pull out up to 75% of appraised value, recycling that cash into your next investment, but you're pulling out that cash on the appraised value without regard to what you actually paid. Now, I mentioned before that residential investment properties are where a lot of the smart money is going, and that's because we've seen in recent weeks what's been happening in the stock market. whereas with real estate, there's truly 5 profit centers that you can enjoy with residential investment property. The first, obviously, is positive cash flow. Second is, every month that your tenant is paying their rent, that's going to pay down your mortgage and therefore increase your equity. Now, if you're buying in a growth market, you don't buy the property for the sake of appreciation, but you do have a reasonable expectation of appreciation. And then everybody agrees and knows that there are tax benefits to be enjoyed, the reality of which it's different for every person, but nonetheless, everybody does enjoy the tax benefits. And the last one, I like this one myself. It's an inflation hedge where you're borrowing today's dollars or today dollars, and you're repaying with tomorrow dollars, which are of lesser value. So that's a benefit there. So there are really 5 ways that you can come out ahead. Now, Baltimore is a particularly good market for the BRRR strategy, and there are a number of reasons for that and why Baltimore is a good investor advantage market. One is that home prices are still well below the pre-recession peak in home prices. That brings a very advantageous rent-to-price ratio, which, coupled with healthy rents, basically delivers very strong above-average cap rates, oftentimes averaging, right around 9% plus or minus. The unemployment rate in Baltimore is well below the national average, and job creation in Baltimore is attracting a lot of quality tenants for those jobs that are created, and it is one of the top 5 best U.S. cities to find work. And median household income in Baltimore is 30% higher than the national average. Why Baltimore? Again, a lot of key industries. I've articulated many of them here on the bottom part of the slide: healthcare, biosciences, higher education, government, information technology, defense contracting, cybersecurity, professional scientific and technical services, financial services, and of course, professional sports, all of which are driving a very healthy, the 20th largest metro area in the U.S. market, and a lot of people, higher than average, in terms of renters to owners ratio. Over 50% of the residents in the city of Baltimore, in fact, rent. And as unemployment remains below the national average, this, of course, is going to deliver a really high rental demand, as well as a substantial pool of qualified tenants. Now, Oliver, when he rejoins us, is going to be talking a little bit about the impact of the current COVID-19 issue and crisis. But as I've been saying, Baltimore economically is a strong market. It's a perfect market, just 45 minutes up the road from Washington, D.C., which drives a lot of people that, work in D.C., but can't necessarily afford the rents, which are often 2 or 3 times that of a city like Baltimore. So, who is Turnkey Property Pro? What is Turnkey Property Pro? We're BRRR strategy specialists. Our principal office is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We have offices also in Baltimore, Maryland, and that is where we focus primarily our BRRR strategy efforts. So with that, Oliver, please rejoin us here. Oliver is a really intriguing, very smart, very enterprising young guy who, is responsible, obviously, as the founder and CEO of Turnkey Property Pro for overall management of the business. He's been in the real estate business since the age of 18. He's worked in virtually every facet of the business, real estate brokerage, management, construction, development. He's had his own brokerage company with over 35 agents. And most recently, he refocused his efforts on Philadelphia and then Baltimore. But Oliver, are you there?
Hi, Phil. Hey, everybody. So once again, thank you for joining us. I'll give you a quick snippet of sort of my, experience. I've been in the real estate business basically my whole career, 20 years. Started my career in New York. I did everything from brokerage to property management to new ground up construction of $150 million projects and up. From a very young age, I started working with a lot of the very large owners and developers in New York City. That's sort of where I cut my teeth and got my training on how to sort of build your portfolio and manage it and construct it and do all the facets of the business. And basically, I did that for the first 15 years of my career. And it sort of got to the point where, I was doing all the facets of the business for everybody else, but not really buying anything myself personally. And as I'm sure you all know, New York is wildly expensive. You don't have any kind of positive cash flow. It's sort of a market where, it's an appreciation only type market. And so what was very important to me is, being able to buy something that cash flows positive today. So about 8 years ago, my sister and I came down to Philadelphia. We started buying properties, fixing them up, renting them out, and basically using the BRRRR strategy to build our own portfolio. And basically what started happening is that we started getting a lot of investors who, for whatever reason, they could not, they all want to own real estate, but can't do the day-to-day of it. Everything from finding the property to performing any necessary renovations on the property to managing that property. They may be busy, with their full-time jobs or maybe not geographically located. And so we started Turnkey Property Pro, which is sort of our outfit in which we do it for other investors. So started in Philly about 8 years ago, started buying a lot of properties, started doing them for clients. And then about 4 years ago, we started to do the same process in Baltimore. Philadelphia, everything that I've bought in Philadelphia over the last 8 years has more than doubled and tripled, which is great. However, with that, the percentage return was getting a little bit less and less. And so basically we started seeing the same sort of thing that happened in Philadelphia over the last 10 years starting to happen in Baltimore. So Baltimore now is effectively half the price of Philadelphia. You can buy properties in Baltimore starting at about $85,000. A lot of the returns are, 9, 10, 12, even sometimes 14, 15%. And because of the close proximity to Washington, D.C., what we're seeing is a lot of neighborhoods in Baltimore start to get pretty significant investment. A lot of people who are living and renting and working both in Baltimore and DC, because DC is 40 minutes away. So we really saw an opportunity to be able to acquire assets cheap, also to get really, really nice cash flow, and then also appreciation, because we have a certain investment strategy where we like to invest very close to where, let's say, the A neighborhoods are, sometimes within blocks. So, where you can get a house for maybe 1/3 of the price of an A neighborhood, and also get significant cash flow, but also there's a very good, argument for why those properties will appreciate significantly over time. So I guess, the number one ethos of my company is really to go out and to do these properties as if they were my own. I take my clients' properties more seriously than my own even, and really to deliver a product where, we are doing really good acquisitions, where we are also performing, top level construction. We have quite a significant operation in Baltimore. We manage about 400 units currently in Baltimore, and we have a construction staff of about 75 subcontractors who go around and renovate all of our properties. And we're actually going in and out of these properties pretty quickly. Our average, construction time usually is 30 to 60 days. And about another 30 days to find a good tenant. And then, with all of that, bringing down to bear our extensive experience in property management, because you can buy the best deal and do the best construction, but if you don't know what you're doing in terms of property management, you can have an unpleasant experience. I mean, I have 20 years experience in property management. I also partnered with, my partner in Baltimore is a developer who owns over 200 units himself personally, and really has that same level of experience that I do in New York, Philadelphia, and Baltimore, but he has it very specific to Baltimore. So we, know the ins and outs of how to deal with the city, the best way to manage tenants, and we really take our time, qualify our tenants to make sure that our investors are in the best possible position to succeed. And so we really place a very large focus on that. Okay, so let's talk about the elephant in the room, COVID-19. So first of all, let me just say, I understand this is a very trying time for people. I hope everybody's sheltering in place and keeping safe with themselves or their families. But what do I think the effects of COVID-19 are going to be on the real estate market? Well, a couple of different things. So number one, a lot of people are like, oh my God, is the economy going to go, terribly, and all of these things. And I would counter in a couple of different ways. So number one, people more than ever need a place to live. That's number one. Number two, even in challenging economic times, people need affordable places to live, right? So most of our rentals in Baltimore are, $1,000 to $1,500 a month. On average, they're about $1,200 a month. So, our properties are affordable, and historically, if you look at other, significant crises over the last 20 years, after September 11th or after the 2008 financial crisis, our houses, which is considered to be sort of affordable housing, actually performed very strongly because, the first people to kind of downsize are the people who are spending $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month. They want to conserve money, and so we actually end up getting a lot of very good caliber tenants moving into our neighborhoods. But not only that, let's just look at, apparently, we've had 16 million people file for unemployment, and being that our rentals are $1,200 a month, people on unemployment can afford our rents. So, even if you have a single person on unemployment getting $600 a week, that is it's basically $2,400 a month, which, $1,000 rental people can pay that, as well as, sort of bare minimum expenses. If you have a married couple, they get double the unemployment, and they are more than able to afford our rents. Also, a lot of the industries in Baltimore are a lot of federal government type jobs that have a certain type of stability. Even going forward, through this COVID crisis. But additionally, people who are employed can pay this, and even if the crisis goes even further than that, these properties lend themselves to Section 8 type rentals. About 40% of our entire portfolio in Baltimore is Section 8 or other type of subsidized income. So those are really great to buy in these times because, your rent is guaranteed. So, I would say that, the affordability of, the properties are going to be really good. In fact, we've been having actually a spike in people who are looking to rent our properties already within the last 2 weeks. I guess the other two things that I'll say really quickly about COVID, number one, we are considered, we manage 400 properties. We are considered an essential business in the city of Baltimore. So we are open for business. We are still performing the construction of our properties. However, the safety of our employees, is paramount to us. So we have, made certain changes in response to COVID to make sure that we're keeping our employees safe. So whereas we may have, used to have 10 or 15 guys working in a house at one time, we've kind of really dropped that down to, only people who are doing a certain segment in construction and not having more than 1 or 2 people in the house. So really trying, our keeping our employees safe is paramount to us. So we are doing that. And then the last thing that I'll say about COVID is, this is going to create a buying opportunity. Okay, in real estate, when you have these crises, a lot of people tend to panic. They tend to want to sell their assets. If they need to raise money, if they are not properly managing the way that we can properly manage, they may want to sell and sell quickly and sell for discounts. So really, for us, this is going to be an opportunity to be able to buy even more significantly discounted properties. And I think that, the smart money who are basically going in the opposite direction of the herd are the ones who are going to be able to take advantage of even more deeper discounted properties and even better returns in the years that you own it, and then eventually when you go and you sell it. So I guess those would be my kind of 3 main COVID concerns, but if you have any questions towards the end, happy to answer them. Phil, so I guess we can move on to the next slide. We have
Perfect. Oliver, let's do this. Let's take advantage of your depth of knowledge and insights here. I'll just fire a couple of, often asked questions, if I may. What do you consider is the principal difference or differences between a Berkey versus maybe a classic turnkey property?
Okay, so a classic turnkey property is basically, a company that will, like mine, who will basically I'll buy the property, I will fix the property, I will place tenants, get the property all perfect, and then I will sell it to a client, already done, already tenanted, already cash flowing, and a financeable property. That's the traditional turnkey method. Now, what is the problem with that method? The problem with that method is, first of all, most professional developers don't do it in that way. Second, and probably most important to the investors who are listening, when you buy traditional real estate, when you buy thinking, oh, I found a property and it's a good property and I'm going to put my 25% down on the property and I'm going to get financing and all of these things, the problem with that business model is it does not matter how much money you have. Eventually, if you run around and you put 25% down, 25% down, 25% down, you will run out of money. So, the traditional turnkey, way of buying real estate, I mean, it's fine if you're looking to buy, 1 or 2 properties. However, I think most people, especially when they're looking at rental grade real estate and income producing real estate, the idea is that they want to build a portfolio. They want to have not only 1, they want to have 5, 10, 20, 100. And how do you get to 100 properties is really by doing the BRRRR strategy. And, so with the BRRRR strategy, you have to buy a discounted asset. You have to perform construction, making the property more valuable. Usually what we try to do in a BRRRR is really make sure that whatever we're acquiring the property at and doing the construction at, as soon as that construction is done, the property should be worth 20, 25, 30% more than what you bought it for. And so even though it's initially cash heavy in the front, you have to buy the property in cash, you have to put the construction in cash. If you execute it in the right way, when you go to refinance, you should be able to refinance it for 30% more than what you bought it for. So you already are getting 30% equity in your property, but more importantly, you're able to pull all, if not most of your money back out of it. And that enables you to recycle your capital into the next deal and the next deal and the next deal. And that's how these guys go from 1 to 100 properties, is by doing
And Baltimore, would you say, is a good BRRRR market because of what we were talking about earlier, where home prices still haven't returned to the pre-recession highs, and there's that the healthy rents with the underpriced properties? Is that principally the reason, Oliver?
So I mean, yes. So basically, not every market allows you to do BRRRRs. You can't do BRRRRs in New York. You can't do BRRRRs in San Francisco. The properties are too expensive. You can't even do whereas in Philadelphia, I used to be able to do BRRRRs all day long. The Philadelphia market got very hot. The prices of properties went up. So it got harder and harder to do a real BRRRR in Philadelphia. It's another big reason why we started doing it in Baltimore. I think that there is a certain time opportunity, because eventually the properties in Baltimore will all get expensive and it'll be very hard to do a BRRRR. But right now, able to do a BRRRR, we can pick up properties generally, for $30,000, $40,000 that, need to be rehabbed. We can do pretty, extensive rehabs for, $50,000, $60,000, and do them in neighborhoods where, renovated properties are worth, $125,000, $130,000, $140,000. And so we're really able to execute the BRRRR strategy for our clients, pretty much all the time right now. So I think it's a great, market to do it in. Plus, again, going back to investing where the expensive properties are, we might be doing $100,000 renovation, BRRRR property renovation, 3 blocks away from where there's $300,000 houses. So, you really have the comps to be able to pull all, if not most of your money back out of it for sure.
So let's take a look at a typical BRRRR deal, and I believe this is one that is actually currently available. 3625 Edmondson Ave. Can you just give us the key elements from this slide here on this property, Oliver, please?
Sure. Okay, so this property is in West Baltimore. There's over 80 different neighborhoods in Baltimore, but this is in West Baltimore. It's actually in a neighborhood called Edmondson. Edmondson is probably about a 10-minute drive to the downtown, but it's also right on Highway 40, so it makes it very accessible to people who are commuting to work. It is kind of a very good homeowner neighborhood, and it's also kind of a little bit suburby feeling. So you have a lot more green space, but it's a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom. It's 1,600 square feet. We like those because they're bigger, they have better comps. 1,600. Most of the properties are usually 1,000 to 1,300 square feet. This is a 1,600 square foot house, and so we're buying the property at $50,000. I mean, since when can you buy a 4-bedroom house for $50,000? It's a very good deal. We are doing a $50,000 renovation to the property. We are renovating it, very pro landlord. We're going in, we're making sure, the roofs are good, the mechanicals are good, and, all the, kitchens and bathrooms and floors and everything is done rental grade, new renovated. So you're all in for about $100,000. Now we like to be very conservative on our rents, so we posted this rent at $11 50. However, we really do like to under promise and over deliver. A lot of 4 bedrooms can get $1,300, $1,400, $1,500, and we do try to get those numbers. However, we really try to be conservative on our pro forma. Here you have a lot. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me ask a quick question, if I may. Now, this is a bigger than average property. At 1,600 square feet. It's already got 4 beds and 2 baths. Now, you spoke of and touched on Section 8 public housing earlier. And my understanding of Section 8 is that, based on the size of the property, it determines what the maximum rent that the coupon will pay from the housing authority for a Section 8 tenant. Is there an increase, like for every bedroom, like a 2-bedroom property is going to get X, 3-bedroom is going to get X plus, 4-bedroom would get X plus plus. Does it stop pretty much at 4 bedrooms, or is there space?
No, I mean, there's actually, I think they do make allowances for 5 and 6 bedroom properties, but really, the majority of these type of row houses usually are either 2-bed, 2-bed, 1 or 2 bath, 3-bed, 1 or 1.5 baths, or 4 beds. Those are really, and in fact, 4 beds are even more rare. I mean, the most common is 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms. 4 bedrooms are actually very highly desired. So with Section 8, unfortunately, there's not an exact science for what they're going to pay. They have their own metrics for the neighborhoods and et cetera. But just in generalities, when you're doing a 2-bedroom rental in Section 8, depending on the neighborhood, usually the average is about $800 to $1,000. In some cases, if the neighborhood's a little bit better, they can pay up to $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 for a 2-bedroom. 3 bedrooms tend to be really from $1,000 to $1,500, depending on the neighborhood. And not to get everybody excited here, but 4 bedrooms, they actually do pay $1,200 at a minimum, and sometimes they can go up to $1,600 and $1,800. Section 8 rental. But I'm not promising that, but it could happen.
Sure. Let's just quickly, just because we want to be respectful of his time today, but let's just quickly move through what this looks like as a BRRRR in terms of cash flow, what the investor would be paying, when they'd be paying it, and how the whole process works. So.
Okay, so let's just say that you decided you want to buy this property to make sure that the sellers are the sellers. There's no crazy back debts. You get $100,000 worth of title insurance on the property. So typically, to reserve a property, we ask for a $5,000 deposit. Now that doesn't go to us; that goes to the title company. And basically, once they receive that deposit, they start doing the title work on the property. That process usually takes about a week or 2 on average. So during that time, first of all, once you've put a deposit down on the property, we stop showing it to any one of our other clients, and then we start taking you through the paperwork process. During that time, you will get a sales contract from us. You will get a management contract from us, and you will get a construction contract from us detailing exactly what we're going to do as part of the construction to this property. You will review all of those things, you will sign all of those things, and then once the property comes back with clear title, we will move to close on them. So typically in this transaction, what would happen at closing, and you can do all your closings remotely, but basically what happens at closing is you will be expected to pay the price of the property minus your $5,000 deposit, plus your closing costs, which on average is about $3,500 in Baltimore. And we do construction in draws. So we usually do it in 3 draws, 50%, 25%, and 25% house, we're doing a lot of the very expensive stuff. So we're doing the roofs and mechanicals and demo and drywall and all of this thing. So usually at closing, we will request 50% of whatever the construction budget is. So at closing, again, you're going to pay the price of the property, you're minus your $5,000 closing costs, minus your $5,000 deposit, plus your $3,500 closing costs, and 50% of whatever the construction budget is. And then we will start going through the construction process. Now, once you start going through the construction process, we actually will start to send you photos of all the progress that's happening. Generally, that's on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, depending on how quickly we're going through construction, and there's photos for you to see. And then, obviously, we are available to answer any questions or show it to you if you're around while it goes through the construction process. And as we hit certain benchmarks in construction, we will request, the next 25% draw and the next 25% draw as we're finishing the project. And that's really done to sort of protect you in that, you're not writing a check for the entire construction. You really can see us, making progress. All right, so we're moving on to the next slide here, Phil.
Go. Basically, though, this follows the process that we were speaking about earlier, where once the construction is complete, we go into turnkey mode. That means that you, the owner, are going to schedule, and we can certainly help you with that, a third-party independent inspection of the property. Now, any experienced investor will tell you and knows what I'm talking about, but for the uninitiated, your inspection report that you get back from an independent third-party inspector is always a four-letter word, and that word is ugly. And it's all part of the process. We know it's going to be, you're going to know it's going to be, and it's no big deal. You're going to send that report over to us. We're going to develop a punch list that corrects any significant or safety-related items, and then we're going to provide evidence demonstrating that we've completed those. But you can always, as an added measure, have your same inspector go back and re-inspect the punch list items, who, when they tell you everything's good to go, then your property is fully renovated and to satisfaction. But as Oliver mentioned, property management, and we are out there identifying, marketing the property to put in a qualified tenant in place. You are guaranteed.
Let me talk about that for a quick second. So basically, once the property has been renovated, now typically in Baltimore, we give ourselves 120 days to renovate the property. Now, we've actually been doing incredibly well in most of our properties. We've been blowing through construction in 30 to 60 days. However, on your contract, you will have 120 days construction period. And the reason why we give ourselves 120 days is just in case we get any kind of delays from the city, because we're doing all these projects, with permits and as required by the city, and sometimes they have delays and et cetera. So we give ourselves a little bit of time for that. But also, one of the things that we really spend a lot of time on is qualifying our tenants. So we give ourselves about 30 days to find a qualified tenant, not because there's not a lot of people who want to rent them, but we really, pick from the best of the crop. And if you're doing a Section 8 rental, even if you rent it in 2 weeks, it takes Section 8 about 30 days to come out and approve the property. So we give ourselves about 30 to 45 days to rent the property. After 120 days, we start management. Our property management division will help you get all the necessary licenses that you need, insurance that you need, and city registrations, lead safe, market the property, get a tenant in place, and then once the tenant is in place, they will start to send you rent every month, which is kind of the whole goal of all of this. So
okay, but then, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but we want to be mindful of the time here. But then it essentially kicks into this cash out refi aspect, which is the third R of the BRRR strategy. And we've talked about it though thus far. You're going to wait that 6 months from the initial closing, not from the end of renovation. From the first moment you've closed on the property, that's when the clock starts ticking. You'll do a cash out refi. You're not obliged to do it at 6 months. You can do it at 7 or 8 or 9. It's up to you. But the idea is that you're going to pull out up to 75% of the appraised value. And, you know, typically what that means, your 20 or more % bump in after repair value over what you paid. And what this does is, bottom line, minimize greatly your net cash out of pocket. And by doing so, this delivers a significant bump in your cash on cash returns, where a classic turnkey property generally will return you cash on cash returns of 10 to 12%. You can generally enjoy 20% or more with a good BRRRR property. Now, you know, why does this strategy increase your ROI and velocity of money? Well, we just gave the example, because pulling out that cash afterwards amps up your return on investment, and you're rolling your money over, reinvesting, recycling your cash every 6 to 7 months. And that's how the velocity of building your wealth comes into play. So this slide here just touches on the key elements of the Berkey that we've already just talked about, and Oliver very detailed went into, and finally results in investors recycling their cash. Now, a lot of you may well have questions. We'll try and get to your questions right now, but in the event that something occurs to you after the fact, please take down my email address. It's phil@turnkeypropertypro.com. We would love to jump on a call. Oliver is available to you. I'm available to you. The rest of the members of our team are available to you. Just shoot me an email. Let us know what your availability looks like. We'll schedule a call, answer all your questions, and hopefully have an opportunity to work with you. Maybe welcome you to Baltimore to take a look at some properties. But the bottom line is to give you entree to this really wonderful world of BRRRRs. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Oliver, before we turn to any questions that may have come in?
Well, you know, basically, everybody is, look, if you're looking to build a portfolio, if you're wondering how to do this, this is really the way that you go to owning multiple properties. It's really the only way to do it. And, you know, my company is probably one of the only, if not the only, responsible provider and developer of these type of properties for investors. So, you know, if you're looking to build a significant portfolio with very experienced developers, you know, we would be more than happy to and very excited to work with all of you. And with that, you know, I'm happy to answer any questions at any time. Reach out to Phil. I'm happy to talk to every single one of you when we have more time, but I guess I will turn it over to the questions section if anybody has any questions they'd like for us to address.
Yes, Oliver. So everybody definitely go in the questions bar there and continue to push those through. We had several people asking about getting a copy of this. Just a reminder to everybody, once this is completed, we'll get that ready and send that out to everybody in an email fashion, so you will have a copy of it. But there was a few specific questions for you, Oliver. One was, how do you find properties in Baltimore?
Okay, so so basically we buy properties through all sorts of different ways. We buy at the auctions, we buy at tax sales, we buy through wholesalers, we buy off-market properties, we buy on-market properties if they are good enough. But we have basically a whole acquisitions team of people that are going and they're looking at 50 to 60 properties a week, because obviously you can go online and you can find some cheap property, but you really need to go and look at the property to make sure, it's not going to fall down, it's not in a horrible neighborhood. So we really spend a lot of time going and looking at these properties. I've actually become, our company's become one of the larger buyers of these types of properties. So a lot of times, a lot of, the community of people that sell these properties, they know if they have a good deal, they don't even put it on the market. They'll bring it directly to us. So we are able to take advantage and use our experience to buy, some of the best negotiated deals on the market. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, and the next question is, how do you find discount properties in Baltimore? I don't know if that's the same answer or if there's a different answer there.
I mean, look, a lot of, how do you find discounted to it? It's obviously, where the property is, the condition of the property, the comps of renovated properties, how many unrenovated properties there are. There's a lot of different things that go into being able to find a good deal. We do a lot of these, so we know what we're doing. We also are excellent negotiators on behalf of our clients, so we're always trying to get the best possible deal for our clients. But it really comes down to looking at a ton of them, having the experience to properly know how to evaluate them, making sure that they are in the path of progress and that they have strong comps and good capability to rent them. And so those are some of the things that we really look for to make sure that we're getting our clients excellent BRRRRs.
Awesome. The next question up says, what zip codes do you currently have available for BRRR?
What zip codes do we currently have available for what?
For the BRRR method.
Okay, so
Rodney, if I can, or Oliver, if I can just take that one. We're happy to discuss with anyone that is interested. That's an excellent question, by the way. The neighborhoods that we like to invest in, and we do have a list of the neighborhoods. We do have a list of the zip codes. It's probably easier, however, rather than run through a bunch of different zip codes on the webinar right here. Strongly suggest you, anyone that is interested in that information, shoot me a quick email. Phil@turnkeypropertypro.com. I'm happy to send out a list of the neighborhoods and zip codes, but also too, we'd love to jump on a call with you. If you're asking zip codes, you probably know about Baltimore.
Let me just add to that. There's over 80 different neighborhoods in Baltimore, and we invest all over Baltimore, depending on where we see good deals. But we also work kind of a little bit bespoke with our clients. When we talk to you, we're going to talk to you about what gets you excited about, this, what kind of properties that you like. If if there's certain neighborhoods that you like, we certainly take that into account and can make recommendations, in specific zip codes that you may be looking for, or as well talk to you about some of the ones that we really like, and really kind of include you in the buying process and why we like one neighborhood or one zip code over the other. But happy to discuss that in further detail, if you get in touch with us.
Okay. And the next question up says, do you need to set up an LLC in Baltimore?
Okay. Well, no, you don't. No, you don't. However, if you decide that you do want to buy under LLC, we help clients all the time
Okay, Oliver, can I just chime in real quick on this point? Oliver and I go back and forth on this a lot, which is why I laughed and answered so quickly the way I did. Basically, something to be very aware of. If you're not intending to do a cash out refi later, and you are a person that likes to hold your property in an LLC, terrific, fine. We're all set. We've got you covered. We can help you with an LLC if you need help, or you can just put it right in and buy into your LLC. However, if you're intending to do a cash out refi later, you're almost certainly, if you intend to borrow that money conventionally, to not go with an LLC, to simply go with good property insurance and maybe an umbrella policy to cover you from a liability standpoint, because you cannot borrow conventionally into an LLC. So the point or the issue and what you should do then is buy in your personal name and then transfer it after you've gotten your conventional cash out refi into your LLC using a quit claim deed. And by doing it that way, you avoid triggering the due on sale clause in most conventional mortgages.
Awesome. And then next question up, it says, do you use mailing to the seller?
Do we use mailing to the seller from an acquisition standpoint? Is that what they're talking about? I mean, do we mail to sellers? Yes, we do. You know, a lot of times we will go into particular neighborhoods where, you know, there's a lot of opportunity. For example, there's a neighborhood in Baltimore called Pigtown, which we really like, which is sort of like, you can read about it online. A lot of the developers have decided to, you know, make that the next area. It's very close to the downtown. We're doing a bunch of projects there. So it's a neighborhood like that where, you know, a lot of times we'll go into a are you know, need work, and every other house is really nice. So a lot of times we will go in and try to acquire all 3 houses, you know, to make the whole street nice. And then we do, you know, a lot of times with our wholesalers, market very specifically to certain blocks, to certain streets, and also to certain neighborhoods in their entirety. Obviously, we try to get you know, direct to seller, because sometimes, you know, basically when you get direct to seller, there's opportunities to get an even more discounted property because they don't have to pay broker fees and all of that stuff. So yes, we do a fair amount of mailing directly to owners.
Okay. And the next question up says, interesting concept. Can you employ this concept with properties an investor already owns?
Can you employ this?
Oh, I think Oliver, what he's asking is if an investor already owns a property, but it has not yet been, say, fully renovated or whatever, you know, is that something that they can work with us? Unfortunately, I don't really think that there's, you know, we can probably be of some assistance or work out some kind of situation. I would encourage you to reach out to us. Send me an email, and we can have a discussion about it. In the classic BRRR sense, however, no. I mean, the reason that our company exists and is as successful as we are is because there are few and far between operators responsible enough to be able to undertake the complete Berkey strategy as we do. But, you know, that said,
I mean, look, I'll jump in here for a second. Technically, the answer to your question is yes. If you've bought a property and it needs renovation and it's in an area that has very good comps, yes, technically we can come in, do the construction for you, maximize the value, and you can technically do a BRRR. However, what I will say to that is a couple of different things. So number one, you know, you really have to know that that neighborhood has the comps to support a BRRR. You also really need to understand construction, and this is important. You know, people a lot of times, especially if they don't have experience, they don't know what, you need to do from a construction standpoint, what that construction is going to cost. They don't have the level of professional contractor like we do, who can deliver these projects, because collectively we're doing millions of dollars a year worth of these. We get the best deals in construction and materials, and we pass them on to our investors. So we can do these and pass those savings on to our investors. But we got to really make sure that the property's in the proper location, you know, to do that. I will say that, you know, for the most part, you know, we can generally acquire these much better than your average person in Baltimore. So a lot of people think, hey, should I go out and find my own property, or I might be better than these guys finding my own property, you know, and not to toot my own horn, but that's generally not the case. And, you know, so I would certainly happy to talk about all situations. So feel free to reach out with whatever you have, and we're happy to help.
These are definitely some great questions. There's a couple of more.
Okay.
Next one up is, do you have a construction model for all finishes for economies of scale?
Yes. So, okay. So we generally, we renovate these things in such a way that they are pro landlord. So we're doing new roofs. We are doing making sure all the electrical in the properties, you know, good or up to standard. We are making sure the mechanicals, the HVACs of the building are good. We are making sure structurally the building is good. We are making sure that the properties are up to code and lead safe. And then we are going in and we are renovating these properties, you know, pretty much top to bottom in a lot of cases. So we're doing, you know, all new, you know, drywall and window floors and all of these things. Now, I will say that we renovate them somewhat rental grade, and we do that on purpose because, you know, the materials that we use tend to last, you know, will take, you know, a tenant beating, for example. A lot of people are always concerned, oh my God, what if the tenant damages the property? Well, nothing in the property is cataclysmically expensive to replace, and we take too much security deposit, and we generally don't have those kind of problems at all. However, we're equipped to deal with it if it happens. But we want to renovate them rental grade. That way, you know, if you're going to own this as a rental property for the next few years, if, you know, tenant does damage to your property, you know, it's not going to really affect your bottom line at all. And then look, if your $100,000 property becomes a $400,000 property, you know, you'll have the money to put a slightly better kitchen or slightly better floors and be able to sell for top of the market. But we are doing, you know, rental grade renovations of these properties. But really, where we spend the money is in the major facilities of the building, so the roofs, and because we really want these properties to last, and so that you guys don't have any kind of significant maintenance for the longest possible period that we can.
And the next question up says, what percentage of ROI can we expect on average?
Well, I mean, look, guys, it all, and we like to really, you know, when somebody starts working with us, we will have a, you know, a very specific conversation to them. What's their goal with all of this? What gets them excited? Is it, you know, do you get excited by getting a 6% return in an A neighborhood that's really fancy, and you're going to go with your friends to brag to it, and it has a very good chance for appreciation? If that's something that gets you excited, we can do those. However, a lot of our clients, what they're concerned with is A, the ability to do BRRRR, and B, to get some really nice cash flows. So what I will say is that on an average, you know, depending on what neighborhood you're going into, most of our properties in Baltimore are, you know, generally between 9 and 12%. However, we do get certain properties in C neighborhoods that can go, I mean, we have one right now that's a 17% return, but that's not that's kind of generally an outlier. I mean, really what to expect is between, usually our bread and butter stuff is usually 9 to 12, 13% returns net of all expenses, which is really important.
And then our final.
And yeah, that's on a cash, an all cash buy. Where that truly gets boosted, however, is through the BRRRR strategy. Once you've done your cash out refi, so the reason that turns your cash on cash return into oftentimes that's a real return, that's not a faux return, is because that's the ROI based upon your net cash pocket after the refi in terms of your return. So I'd say on the all cash side of things, initially, you're looking at an average of about 9%, plus or minus.
But guys, I just want to touch, and I don't want to get everybody excited about this, but I just want to mention this. So when you're able to do 100% perfect BRRRRs, and even the most professional investors, they can't do a 100% BRRRR every time, but we are as good as they get when trying to get those opportunities. But let's just say you do a perfect BRRRR, and let's just make the numbers easy. Let's say you buy a $40,000 house. Let's say you do a $60,000 renovation, and let's say it appraises at $130,000, and you go to the bank and you refinance your money out, and let's just say in that example you're getting a $1,200 rent. So you have a $100,000 mortgage, you have your $100,000 back, plus your cash flowing positive, $400 a month. If you have, and now you have an asset that's paying down your mortgage, and you have the capability to go buy another property, your first property in a 100% perfect BRRRR becomes technically an infinite return, because you don't have your capital in that asset, and you still own that asset, and you're taking advantage of the positive cash flow, the mortgage being paid down, the appreciation that's happening to the property, and you have all your money to buy again. So and that process, when you do a perfect BRRRR, is really called an infinite return, and we try to get as close to that as possible, and certainly we can talk about that in further detail at some point.
And then one final question, do you have a few properties that can be toured?
Yes, so we do tours pretty much all the time. So we have offices in Baltimore. Typically the way that we work is, once you reach out to us and we, sort of talk to you and present to you some of our available properties, you can actually schedule a tour where you come to our offices in Baltimore, you put a face to the name, you'll typically get to meet a lot of the staff that we have in Baltimore. So you'll typically get to meet, myself or, one of the sort of more executive people at Turnkey. You'll also get to meet members from our property management and development and construction staff in Baltimore. So typically people will come for a tour. Tour typically lasts 3 hours. You'll meet us at our offices. We'll talk for a little while, and then we'll actually go out and show you properties. Where you'll go out and you'll see some of the neighborhoods. You'll see some of our properties before construction, during construction, after construction. And look, certainly I have clients from all over the country. Some people will never set foot in Baltimore. They don't care as long as they get a check every month. However, I always do recommend to people, if you are close, to come and take a tour. Because if you're kind of excited about this now, when you visually see it and you see the construction and you see what's happening in the neighborhoods and you see the potential, you really get excited. If you're excited about it now, when you see it with your eyes, you certainly get excited. So we certainly do those tours, happy to do it. And typically we'll do it, either during the week and also on weekends to accommodate people who are, working during the week.
All right, well, that is all the questions we have. Thank you so much, Oliver and Phil, for joining us. If anybody has any further questions, don't hesitate to reach out to Phil at phil@turnkeypropertypro.com, and keep an eye out for this video to come out here as soon as we can get this ready to roll. And again, thank you so much and stay safe.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone.